At my $985,000 housewarming, my sister grabbed my arm. "This house is perfect for my family," Mom added. "Pack your things." I hit play on the TV. When I watched my sister and mother stroll into the welcoming event for my new house, I knew something was about to happen. A home that mirrored every sacrifice, late night, and ounce of effort I put into creating my IT firm. Nonetheless, the knot in my gut tightened and my skin crawled as I recognized the look in their eyes. The exact expression I saw when I was 21, the night my entire life fell apart. Growing up in Boston, our family seemed to be rather average. Dad works in finance, while Mom operates a boutique with 2 girls and a golden retriever named Buddy. However, as the phrase goes, looks may be deceiving. When I was 13, the cracks started to emerge. Dad walked out, and while the divorce was not very dramatic, what followed next set the stage for years of pure family dysfunction. Camille, 4 years my senior, subsequently married Andrew, an investment banker from a wealthy family. Their wedding was magnificent, but Mom spent more than $65,000 she didn't have, claiming that a daughter only gets married once. I was 20, working 2 jobs, attending community college, and just scraping by to buy my bridesmaid outfit. Then came the babies. Lucas, Madeline, and Noah. Camille's entitlement grew with each child, and Mom was always willing to assist them out, even if it cost me. "Your sister has 3 children to feed," Mom would say. "What do you need the additional money for? Books? Couldn't you just utilize the library?" Meanwhile, I was pushing myself to exhaustion. Scholarships were helpful, but without family support. I worked as a barista in the mornings, tutored in the afternoons, and data entry clerk on weekends. Sleep was a luxury I couldn't afford. Dad slipped into obscurity after relocating to Chicago and beginning a new family. Mom made it tough for him to communicate with me by failing to alert me when he phoned or accidentally deleting his messages. But I persevered. While Camille posted stunning family vacation photos, I worked up all night coding and researching. I graduated at the top of my class. Mom attended my high school graduation but departed early since Camille phoned. Lucas had a slight fever. I've never complained. I simply accepted this as my reality and became driven to achieve success on my own terms. I didn't need their approval. What I didn't foresee was how dramatically things would change on my 21st birthday. That night shaped everything that happened afterward, culminating in the battle 11 years later. My 21st birthday happened on a Tuesday. I remember because I was able to take the evening off, which was unusual. I wasn't anticipating a big celebration. Camille and Andrew were expecting their 3rd child and had the whole family's attention. Still, turning 21 seemed significant. I was legally an adult, had finished high school, and had won partial scholarships to 3 institutions. When I got home after tutoring, I found Mom and Camille at the kitchen table, preoccupied in spreadsheets. They hardly glanced up. Leftover lasagna in the refrigerator. "If you're hungry," Mom said, her gaze riveted on the papers. I heated up a dish and joined them, fascinated. "What are you working on?" Mom inquired, looking up. "Just sorting out some financial issues. Camille and Andrew need a bigger house now that Noah is on his way." I nodded, used to similar conversations. But through me. "Why do you have my college suddenly a shutter paperwork?" Camille sighed heavily. "We might as well tell her, Mom." Mom straightened the papers and gave me that familiar look that normally precedes a family sacrifice. "Evelyn, we need to discuss your college plans," my mother informed me, Camille expecting again. "They truly need a 4-bedroom home. Andrew's bonus was not as high as they had anticipated this year, and they are a little strained." I sat patiently, knowing precisely where this was going. "The point is," Camille explains, "we have calculated everything. Even with Andrew's salary and Mom's assistance with the down payment, we are still short." "Short for what?" I queried, even though I was already aware. "We need to use your college fund," Mom explained. "Honestly, it's not like you don't already have scholarships. And community college is completely legitimate. You can transfer to a university later when things are less stressful for the family. My college fund, which Dad had begun before the divorce, and Mom's promised money for my education remained unaffected. I was counting on this cash to fill the gap created by scholarships. "But that is my money," I responded softly. Camille rolled her eyes. "Dad set it aside for my education." "Don't be selfish, Evelyn. We're talking about a house for your niece and nephew. Where should they sleep? Should Noah just live in a closet because you want to attend a prestigious university?" "That's not what I'm saying," I protested. "But I've worked so hard for this. I maintained a 3.9 GPA despite working numerous jobs. These scholarships will not cover everything. You can take out loans like everyone else, Camille shouted. Andrew and I have a mortgage. That is life. Or she might have said, you might live at home and go to community college. That would be a lot more cost-effective. Something inside me moved. A lifetime of compliance and acceptance gave way to utter indignation. No. A single phrase lingered in the air. Mom blinked, anticipating no opposition from me. Excuse me? No, I said more loudly this time. The money is for my studies. Dad. You've laid it aside for me. It's not Camille's house money. Mom's face hardened. Evelyn. This isn't a negotiation. This is what's occurring. Your sister has a family to support. And I have a future to build, I said, my voice shaking. I've earned those scholarships. I worked while keeping flawless grades. Camille chuckled coldly, dismissively. I deserve to use my college fund for college. Oh, please. Assuming you understand anything about genuine responsibility. Try having 3, rushed, children before you lecture us on what you deserve. Tears threatened, but I held back. This is not fair, and you know it. Mom got up, scraping her chair. Education is my top priority, I said. That is not incorrect. Well then, Mom responded, folding her arms. If that is your attitude, you have a decision to make. Accept that the money will be used to aid your sister, or pack your bags and embark on your own journey. You're 21 now, after all. An ultimatum hung in the air. Camille grinned, knowing I would back down like I usually did. But something had broken within me. Years of being second best, putting Camille's needs before my own. I stood up softly. I will pack my bags. If I hadn't been so terrified, the surprise on their faces would have been pleasant. Mom definitely did not expect me to choose independence. Do not be so dramatic, Camille mocked. Where would you even go? I didn't answer. I walked into my bedroom and got out my largest bag. I packed my clothes, toiletries, laptop, and important papers methodically. Family photos hung on the walls. They didn't feel like mine anymore. Mom came at my doorway as I zipped the suitcase closed. You're being foolish. Sleep on it, and we will debate it logically in the morning. There is nothing to discuss, I murmured, taken aback by my own calm. You have stated your stance clearly. I'm making mine clear too. I pushed my luggage past her, grabbed my bag from the rack at the front door, and went outside into the darkness. Nobody called after me. Nobody attempted to stop me. That night I slept in my car in the Walmart parking lot, using my work outfit as a pillow. For 3 weeks, I stuck to that regimen, working 4 jobs, sleeping in my car, and bathing at the gym where I had a discounted membership. I told no one. On the 17th day, my computer science instructor, Professor Helen Whitaker, noticed me sleeping in the library. She gently awakened me and asked if everything was okay. Something in her soft eyes shattered my carefully maintained composure, so I told her everything. That evening she brought me to her home and showed me the guest room. It is yours until you figure things out, she stated simply. No one should have to face this alone. Professor Whitaker became more than simply a teacher. She became my mentor's champion and the first one to believe in me wholeheartedly. She helped me secure further scholarships, walked me through financial aid forms, and provided a critical reference for an internship that would ultimately transform my life. Everything that followed the night I was booted out was influenced by that event. It demonstrated that I was entirely alone, yet that chosen family may be more supportive than biological relatives. Most importantly, it proved my own strength, which I was unaware I possessed until I was forced to acknowledge it. With Professor Whitaker's assistance, I was able to get sufficient financial aid scholarships and part-time jobs to attend a local public university rather than my preferred school. It wasn't Boston University, but it did have a solid computer science program, which I loved. My college experience differed significantly from that of my peers. While others partied and joined clubs, I performed a variety of jobs to stay afloat, including waitressing, manning the university IT help desk, and doing freelance web development projects late at night. Sleep became a luxury, and social interactions were non-existent. Despite my rigorous schedule, I kept a perfect GPA. The computer science curriculum went well, and I found myself supporting classmates who were suffering, one of which was Sophia Tran. Sophia, a smart but distracted individual, became my closest friend and ultimately business partner. We were starkly different in various ways. I was methodical. She was impulsive. I excelled at back-end programming. She had a talent for user experience and design. Together, we were ideal. During our junior year we began discussing creating a money management software for young adults. The bulk of current tools were built for folks who were already financially comfortable, not for people like us who were living paycheck to paycheck. We recognized a gap and were eager to address it. We developed a prototype using resources on campus. We named it Sen, an app that allows users to view their spending, automate their savings, and establish responsible credit. Our professors were impressed, but more importantly, our classmates found it very useful. After college, Sophia and I had to choose between steady corporate positions and pursuing our entrepreneurial goals. The safe choice sounded enticing, especially given my financial situation. However, I recalled Professor Whitaker's comments. Sometimes the riskiest road yields the biggest benefits. To save money, we took a gamble and moved into a small roach-infested flat. We dedicated ourselves completely to Sen. I programmed while eating ramen. Sophia worked on user interfaces until dawn. We attended every networking event, pitch competition, and startup program we could find. 7 months of rejections followed. Investors felt we were too young, inexperienced, or targeted the incorrect demographics. College students do not care about financial planning, one venture entrepreneur commented dismissively. But we persisted. We had a breakthrough when we obtained a small business grant, allowing us to recruit our first employee, a marketing specialist who helped us refine our messaging. We made a modest modification, concentrating on recent graduates with student debt rather than current students. The app gained traction gradually and then dramatically. We were featured on a tech blog. A financial influencer with millions of followers promoted Sen, and our user base grew from thousands to hundreds of thousands. Throughout the procedure, I had occasional ideas of contacting my family. I'd had virtually little interaction since that night. Mom called 4 months after I left, not to apologize, but to let me know that they had spent my college fund on Camille's down payment. Dad texted me from time to check in, but our connection remained distant. Instead, I concentrated on expanding my business and personal life. Years passed in a frenzy of code meetings and ultimate success. Sophia and I moved from our modest accommodation to a respectable workplace. We hired extra developers, customer service representatives, and marketing professionals. Sen expanded into a full financial platform. 6 years after our founding, we got an acquisition offer from one of the country's leading financial technology companies. The sum was overwhelming enough to make Sophia and I rich several times over. We eventually reached an agreement after weeks of talks. I was 31 years old and suddenly wealthy than I had imagined imaginable. The concerned 21-year-old sleeping in her car looked to be a different person. Financial security gave people the freedom to make rational judgments rather than rash ones. I invested the most of my windfall, donated to scholarships for first-generation college students, and ultimately allowed myself to explore creating a real house, rather than just a place to sleep between work shifts. After months of searching, I found it. A magnificent craftsman-style home in an upscale neighborhood. At $985,000, it was a significant investment, but it was well within my budget. The 4-bedroom home has character and charm, with hardwood floors, wide windows, a wraparound porch, and a spacious lawn. It required work, but I saw its promise straight immediately. As I signed the closing paperwork, I thought about the irony. My education fund was spent 11 years ago to assist Camille purchase a larger home. I was now able to purchase a property for around $1 million by my own efforts. During the renovation, I received an unexpected message from my father. He saw the news of Sen's takeover online and wanted to congratulate me. Our conversation was uncomfortable, yet it offered new opportunities. He indicated that he had lost track of me after I left and was too ashamed to look further for me. He got divorced again and returned to Boston. Would I consider meeting for coffee? That coffee encounter was heated yet healing. Dad apologized for being absent during my difficult years. He admitted he was aware of the college fund situation but felt unable to act. I did not forgive him immediately away, but I admired his candor. We agreed to work on gradually re-establishing our relationship. During our conversation, he confessed that Camille and Andrew were having financial issues again. Apparently they had to downsize once Andrew's firm was reorganized. Mom continued to support them in every way she could. "They don't know about your success," Dad said. "I have not told them." I nodded, unsure how I felt about it. Part of me wanted them to know how successful I was despite their lack of support. Another half wanted that my successes be kept private. As my house renovations neared completion, I organized a housewarming party. After much thinking, I added my family to the guest list. Sophia feared that I was setting myself up for disappointment. But I thought it was time to close that chapter of my life, one way or another. I sent official invites to Dad, Mom, Camille, and Andrew. Dad responded quickly with acceptance. Mom called, surprised yet pleased. Camille texted, "I look forward to seeing how you're doing. We will be there." The stage was set for a reunion. I never anticipated something so dramatic. The morning of my housewarming celebration was bright and beautiful. Despite staying up late to finish the house, I got up early. Each room was excellent. The living room with its comfortable sectional and built-in bookshelves, the gourmet kitchen with marble countertops and professional-grade appliances, the dining room that can seat up to 10 people, and 4 beautifully appointed bedrooms upstairs, including a master suite with a balcony that overlooks the backyard. Sophia came about 10:30, filled with champagne and decorations. "Are you certain you want to go through with this?" she queried while arranging flowers. "It is not too late to uninvite them." "I need closure," I responded, my stomach twisting at the thought of seeing my mother and sister again. "Besides, these are just 3 out of 28 visitors. If things become difficult, we will have plenty of buffers." The caterers arrived at lunchtime and set up stations on the first floor. By 3:30, everything was ready. Food, beverages, music, and my nerves were frazzled. My colleagues in technology arrived first, followed by neighbors. Professor Helen Whitaker arrived with her husband, embraced me heartily and whispered her pride. Friends from college, industry acquaintances, and my financial advisor round out the early visitors. At 5 o'clock the doorbell rang again. I opened it to see my father standing awkwardly on the porch with a present bag. "Dad," I said, the words still sounding strange. "Evelyn," he continued, glancing at the home behind me. "This is impressive." I invited him in, gave him a brief tour, and introduced him to several of our visitors. He seemed genuinely pleased to see how well I was doing, albeit a bit out of place among the affluent professionals that filled my house. "Your mother and sister should be here soon," he stated. "They were going to get together." I nodded and refilled my water glass to hide my concern. "So, how are they?" Dad hesitated. "Managing Andrew's work position has been difficult for them. They sold their home last year and moved into a townhouse. Your mother, Elaine, is very helpful with the kids." Before I could respond, Sophia arrived at my elbow. "More guests are arriving," she added, "including, I believe, your mother and sister." I took a deep breath and approached the front door. There they stood, Elaine, scarcely aged after 11 years, and Camille, still attractive but with stress lines around her eyes. Behind them stood Andrew, who seemed much older and more weathered than I recalled, and their 3 children, Lucas, a teenager, Madeline, a preteen, and Noah, approximately 10 years old. "Evelyn," Mom said, her tone hesitant. "Thank you for inviting us." "Welcome," I responded, stepping back to allow them in. "Please come in." The children lingered back meekly, clearly told to be on their best behavior. I smiled at them. I hardly knew these nieces and nephews. "There is a game room upstairs if you get bored," I informed them. "Second door on the right." This broke the ice a little. Lucas asked whether I had a game system, and once I responded yes, the kids headed upstairs. After a short thank you, Andrew commented, "Beautiful home." He looked about with professional curiosity. "The architectural details are impressive." "Thank you," I said. "The renovation took 7 months, but it was worth it." Camille lifted her eyes. "You must have had quite a team working on it." "I did," I said without more elaboration. "Would you want a tour?" As I led them around the home, Camille's manner became more calculating. She ran her fingers over the marble surfaces, looked into closets, and remarked on the wonderful play area in the rear. Mom followed more quietly, occasionally commenting on the decor or inquiring about a detail. "This must have been quite an investment," she eventually said as we walked inside the main bedroom. "It was," I said, "but I have been fortunate in my career." "What exactly are you doing right now?" Camille asked, sitting uninvited on the side of my bed. Dad mentioned something about an app. I told them a truncated version of my success story, and their expressions changed from polite inquiry to surprise. "Did you sell your firm for millions?" Camille inquired, her voice louder than normal. "We did," I answered. The timing was right. The tour moved downstairs where more guests had arrived. I presented my family to Sophia, Professor Helen Whitaker, and colleagues and friends who were familiar with my story. Throughout the introductions I noticed Mom and Camille gathering in corners, speaking furiously. Andrew looked detached from their conversations, instead chatting with my tech industry contacts. 1 hour into the party, I clinked my glass to draw everyone's attention. "Thank you for coming to celebrate this new chapter with me. This house signifies more than simply a place to live. It is a milestone that I previously thought was unreachable. I am grateful to everyone who helped me along the road." As I ended my brief remark, Camille approached. As Evelyn's sister, I would like to say something too. Her voice had the confident tone I remembered from childhood, the sound that usually preceded her achieving precisely what she wanted. Family is everything, she said, placing her palm on my arm. And seeing Evelyn's beautiful home today has made me realize how perfect this would be for our family. The visitors exchanged perplexing whispers. What Camille means, Mom said quietly, is that we are very proud of Evelyn for creating a space where family can gather. No, Camille exclaimed, tightening her grip on my arm. I mean, this house would be ideal for my family. With Andrew's career position and the kids requiring decent schools, we've been hunting for just this type of house in exactly this neighborhood. The room became quiet. Even the caterer had stopped moving. Camille, Andrew said, his face burning. This is not the time or place. It is exactly the right time, she informed us. Evelyn has always wanted to aid her family. She is unmarried, without children, and certainly doing well financially. This 4-bedroom house is wasted on one person when we have 3 growing children who need space and stability. Mom gave a sympathetic nod. I stood motionless, not believing what I was hearing. After 11 years of no communication since seizing my college fund, they were now requesting, nay expecting, that I give them my home. Evelyn, Mom said, her voice taking on that authoritative tone I knew all too well. You need to gather your belongings and locate a smaller place. A downtown condo would be much more suitable for your lifestyle, and it would mean the world to your sister's family. Camille was already pacing the living room, pointing out the changes they intended to make. Lucas could have the bedroom with the bay window. Madeline would love the purple room, and Noah would have plenty of room for his toys in the smallest bedroom. Mom joined in. After everything Camille has gone through, she deserves this. It is the least you could do as her sister. The room had become completely silent. My visitors looked at us with terrified fascination. Sophia rushed to my side, offering support but remaining silent. I took a deep breath, feeling strangely calm despite the absurd scene that was unfolding. I have something to show you, I said quietly as I collected my phone. I used the smart home system to connect my phone to the large television in the main room. With a few touches, I opened a document and projected it on the screen. What is this? Camille inquired anxiously. This, I explained, is a restraining order I filed 11 years ago after you kicked me out on my 21st birthday. The room fell silent as the legal document appeared on the screen. Even the caterer remained motionless, trays in hand. What are you talking about? Mom's voice broke the silence, full of confusion and outrage. We've never kicked you out. You chose to leave. I maintained a steady voice, years of practice paying off. You issued an ultimatum on my 21st birthday. Accept that my college funds would go toward Camille's down payment or pack my bags. I packed my bags. You didn't stop me. That was a disagreement, not an eviction, Camille snorted, her eyes fixed on the document. You are being dramatic. I slept in my car for 3 weeks, I simply explained. In February, in Boston. A murmur spread among the assembled guests. Dad stepped forward, his face pale. I didn't realize it was that bad, he said gently. You never told me. Would it have mattered? I inquired. He made no response to that. I swiped to the next document in my phone. This is more interesting, however. This is why I filed the restraining order. The screen now showed credit reports and loan applications in my name, all from shortly after I left the house. What is this? Andrew inquired, leaning closer to the screen, his financial background assisting him in understanding what he was witnessing before the others. After I left, someone opened 4 credit cards and took out a personal loan in my name, I told the officer. They had my social security number, birth certificate, and enough personal information to answer security questions. The total debt was slightly more than $52,000. Mom's face turned white. Camille became very interested in her wine glass. Fortunately, I added, the detective who assisted me was thorough. Camille used her credit cards at various stores. The loan funds were deposited in an account, which then transferred the exact amount to your joint checking account, Andrew. Andrew carefully turned to face his wife. You told me that money was from your mother, a gift to help with the down payment. It was, says Camille. Mom helped arrange it by committing identity theft against your own daughter. Professor Helen Whitaker interrupted, her intellectual demeanor giving way to protective rage. That is a felony, in case you were not aware. I am sure there has been some mix-up, my mother said. This is the police report I filed, I explained, displaying another document. I had sufficient evidence to file charges for identity theft and fraud. The detective was especially interested in this loan application. I concentrated on a signature where someone attempted to imitate my signature but misspelled my middle name. Camille's hand shook so violently that she had to set down her wine glass. "If you filed charges, why weren't we arrested?" she inquired, her voice lacking conviction. "Because I did not pursue it," I replied simply. "I was 21, terrified, but you were still my family, so I struck a deal with the detective. I would pay off the fraudulent debts myself if they documented everything but refrained from prosecuting." I swiped to another document. "This is proof of payment. Every penny of that $52,000, plus interest, was paid by me over 4 years while I was putting myself through college, working 4 jobs, sleeping 5 hours a night, and eating ramen noodles to survive while paying off debt I had never incurred." Andrew appeared physically ill. "I had no idea," he said softly, his voice barely audible. "Camille told me her parents were helping with the down payment as a gift." "Just one parent," I explained gently. "And it wasn't a gift. It was theft." Mom finally spoke up. "You're twisting everything to make yourself the victim. We've always done everything we could for you. Sometimes families have to make difficult decisions for the greater good." "The greater good?" Dad inquired, his voice rising unexpectedly. "Elaine was 21. Our daughter. And you stole from her." Mom turned on him. "Do not dare to judge me, Thomas. You walked away. You left me to deal with everything." "I left you, not our daughters," he responded. "And I absolutely did not authorize you to steal Evelyn's college fund or commit fraud in her name." "I knew about the college fund," he said, turning to me. "I'm sorry I didn't fight harder for you, but I had no idea about the credit cards and loan." I nodded, accepting his incomplete apologies for what they were. Camille changed her approach after seeing her support crumble. "It was a difficult time," she confessed, tears welling in her eyes. "We had a baby and needed a home. Mom was just trying to help us, and you weren't there to ask." "Maybe," I said. "But that doesn't excuse fraud." I swiped to another document. "Andrew, you might be interested in this too. While investigating the identity theft, I learned a lot about your family finances. These are records of 7 failed business ventures that Camille invested in without your knowledge and with joint funds. The total losses over 9 years exceeded $240,000. Andrew's face turned pale. "Which business ventures?" "Her college friend Brianna's clothing boutique, her cousin's restaurant, and a subscription box service for luxury pet products, among others," I wrote down on paper. "Everyone failed within a year. Everyone received significant investments from your family accounts." "Those were personal loans to friends," Camille explained faintly. "They were going to pay back everything with interest." "Is that why you kept the paperwork hidden?" The room had become uncomfortably tight. Guests were looking for ways out, unsure whether to stay during this clearly private family crisis. "I think," I said loudly, "that we've gotten off track. You came here today to claim my home, assuming that I would once again sacrifice my needs for Camille's desires. I am making it clear that this will never happen again." "So you will throw your own sisters the street?" Mom asked. "Where's your compassion?" "My family out on compassion?" I laughed, but it wasn't funny. "Where was your compassion when I was sleeping in my car during the winter? Where was your compassion when you stole my identity and left me with massive debt before I even started college?" Mom opened her mouth, then closed it again. "I am not throwing anyone out on the street," I clarified softly. "But I will not give up my home. If you require financial assistance, I am happy to discuss setting up education funds for Lucas, Madeline, and Noah. They are innocent in all of this, and I want to know my nieces and nephews." "We do not need your charity," Camille snapped, despite Andrew's expression indicating otherwise. "It is not charity," I answered. "It's the right way to help family," Mom said, grabbing her purse. "I believe we have heard enough. Camille, children, we're leaving." I reminded her that the children were upstairs playing video games. "And I think Andrew might want to stay." Andrew nodded slowly. "I need to understand exactly what has been happening with our finances," my husband said. "Kids will be fine for a while longer." "Fine," my mother responded. "Camille, let us go." Sophia took a step closer to the door. "I believe that is best. This is supposed to be a celebration of Evelyn's new home, not a place to commit property theft." Mom's face turned crimson red. "How dare you? This is a family matter." "Yes," Sophia said. "Evelyn's chosen family is here to support her. Before you return, you should consider what real family support looks like." After they left, the party gradually regained momentum, though discussions naturally focused on the dramatic incident. Andrew remained in the corner, speaking quietly with my financial advisor and checking his phone for Camille's texts. Later, as the guests were leaving, he approached me and formally said, "I owe you an apology. I had no idea about identity theft or investments. I knew about the college fund, but Camille informed me that you had agreed to it. Would it have mattered if you knew the truth?" I questioned. He considered it. "I'd like to think so, but the truth is that I was different back then. Success and money were all that mattered." He looked around the room. "Looking at what you have built on your own, I realized how misguided my priorities have been." "What will you do now?" I inquired. "Have a very difficult conversation with my wife," he said solemnly. "And probably contact a divorce attorney. The financial deceptions are too significant to ignore." I felt an unexpected pang of sadness for my sister. Despite her imperfections, I never wished her marriage to end. "I meant what I said about education funds for the children," I told him. "Regardless of what happens between you and Camille," he nodded graciously. "They would like to know their aunt, especially Lucas. He is interested in programming." After Andrew left to pick up the children, Sophia and I started cleaning up. "Well," she began, tossing glasses into the dishwasher. "That was the most dramatic housewarming I have ever attended." I laughed and felt lighter than I had in years. Not exactly the closure I expected, but closure nonetheless. "Do you think they will try to contact you again?" Sophia inquired. "Mom and Camille. Eventually when they need something," I shut the dishwasher and straightened up. "But next time I will be prepared. No more doormat, Evelyn." As the final guest left and silence descended over my new home, I wandered through each room, admiring what I had created. Not only was it a physical structure, but it also represented a life achieved through dedication, hard work, and the confidence to stand up for myself when it counted most. The days after the housewarming were unexpectedly tranquil. I expected Mom and Camille to torment me with angry phone calls, manipulative texts, and possibly even unannounced visits. Instead, quiet. Andrew phoned me and asked to meet at a coffee shop near his office. "Camille moved in with your mother," he told me over lattes 4 days after the party. "She took the kids for now, but we have agreed to equal custody while we sort things out." "I am sorry about your marriage," I stated truthfully. He shrugged, appearing fatigued and relieved. "After what came to light at your party, I started digging deeper into our finances. It is worse than you know. We are not just struggling. We are nearly bankrupt." "How is that possible?" "You had a good position at the investment firm," had he reiterated. "I was let go 7 months ago, downsizing. I have been working as a financial consultant since then, but making about a third of my previous salary." Meanwhile, Camille continued spending as though nothing had changed. He pushed the folder across the table. "These are statements from accounts I did not even know existed. Credit cards maxed out. Loans I never signed for. Second mortgages on the house before we sold it." While reviewing the records, I experienced a sense of déjà vu. "She did to you what she and Mom did to me?" I inquired. "Except on a much larger scale." He agreed grimly. "We are talking hundreds of thousands in debt." "What will you do?" "Bankruptcy seems inevitable," he admitted. I nodded in understanding. "My offer for education funds still stands. I can set up accounts that can only be used for educational expenses." "That would mean everything," he remarked with sincere gratitude in his voice. "And maybe would you consider spending time with them occasionally? They need stable adults in their lives right now." That conversation signaled the beginning of a new chapter for myself, Andrew, and the children. They were intelligent, inquisitive children who withstood their parents' disagreement with surprising perseverance. Around 3 weeks after the housewarming, Dad invited me to supper. Over pasta at a quiet restaurant, he expressed his thoughts on years of family strife. "I failed you," he admitted honestly. "After the divorce, Elaine made it difficult to maintain contact, but that is no excuse. I should have fought harder to stay involved in your life." "Why did you not?" I asked, finally putting my thoughts into words. "After 11 years, he sighed heavily. "Partly guilt. The divorce was my fault. I had an affair with my second wife. Before leaving. Elaine knew, and she used that as leverage to control everything, including access to you girls. This discovery altered my view of our family relationships, but it did not excuse his absence. I also failed to protect your college fund," he added. "It was in a joint account with Elaine. I trusted her to use it appropriately despite our problems. When I found out what happened, I was too ashamed to confront you about it." "You could have helped me when I was sleeping in my car," I stated. "I did not know," he said. "Elaine told me you had moved in with a friend from school. By the time I learned otherwise, months had passed, and you had stopped responding to my messages." We talked for hours that night, clearing up years of misconceptions, half-truths, and downright lies. Dad was not blameless, but I realized he had been manipulated by Mom almost as much as I had. Your mother was not always like this, he clarified. After Camille was born, something changed. She became obsessed with creating a perfect life for her, often at your expense. I tried to balance things to advocate for you, but it only created more conflict. Why the favoritism? I inquired, the question that had plagued my childhood. He pondered this attentively. I think Camille reminded Elaine of herself, the self she wanted to be. Beautiful, socially adept, traditional. You are more like me. Analytical, independent, questioning. And I think that scared her. The first communication from Camille came 3 days after my meal with Dad, a long email that alternated between apology and justification. She admitted to identity theft, but blamed it on financial desperation and her mother's influence. She apologized for the housewarming argument, but insisted that her family's needs took precedence over my luxury. Classic Camille, Sophia observed as I gave her the email, apologizing without actually accepting responsibility. At least she is acknowledging what happened, I said, feeling more generous now that I was safe from her influence. That is progress. Mother's approach was more straightforward. She began phoning every day, leaving voicemails that ranged from angry accusations to sad pleas. Families should forgive each other, she said in one message. We made mistakes, but so have you by embarrassing us in front of your friends. I did not respond to either of them right away. Instead, I focused on setting clear boundaries with my therapist, Dr. Allison Monroe. Your mother and sister exhibit classic patterns of manipulative behavior, Dr. Monroe observed during one session. They are used to you eventually giving in. Your continued boundary setting is unfamiliar and threatening to them. I feel guilty sometimes, I told her. Especially about the kids being caught in the middle. That is natural, she assured me. But remember, you are modeling healthy boundaries for those children, and you are supporting them directly through the education, funds and quality time. That is genuine family support, not the conditional kind you received. Andrew and Camille's circumstances worsened over the course of several weeks. Their divorce proceedings uncovered other financial deceptions. Andrew filed for bankruptcy as planned. Camille and the children remained in Mom's modest home, which had become cramped and tense. 7 months after the housewarming, Andrew got a better job at a smaller company and rented a 3-bedroom apartment. The custody arrangement granted him access to the children every other week. Throughout his weeks, I would pay Lucas several visits, assisting him with programming assignments or simply offering another supportive adult presence. During one of these encounters, Andrew mentioned that Camille had started therapy. Her therapist suggested it might help with the divorce and financial issues. I am skeptical about her commitment, but it is a start, he told me. Around the same time, I finally agreed to meet Mom for coffee. The conversation was difficult, but respectful. She had aged significantly in the 7 months since the celebration. Living with Camille and the children is challenging, she told me. There is no privacy, no peace, and her spending habits. She paused, shaking her head. You enabled those habits, I kindly pointed out. I wanted her to have everything I did not, Mom explained, an uncommon example of self-awareness. I grew up poor, wore hand-me-downs, never had the nice things other girls had. I swore my daughter would have better. You had 2 daughters, I reminded her. She had the decency to appear embarrassed. I understand. I convinced myself you were stronger, more independent, that you did not need the same support. It was not a complete apology, but it was the closest I had ever gotten. This decades-long pattern of financial deception taught me that Mom's behavior was more than just favoritism. It revealed underlying issues of control, entitlement, and possibly untreated mental health problems. Meanwhile, Camille's therapy looked to be generating actual results. Our weekly meals with the kids moved from awkward to cautiously enjoyable. She got a job as an administrative assistant at a local company, her first serious job since marriage, and moved into a modest apartment when living with Mom became too expensive for both of them. I have never learned to stand on my own, she admitted at one of our discussions. Mom did everything for me. Then Andrew took over. When everything fell apart, I had no idea how to function independently. I felt an unexpected sense of compassion as I saw her struggle with fundamental adult chores like budgeting, meal planning, and home maintenance. Camille, like me, had been a victim of Mom's dysfunction, albeit in a different way. Her golden child status had hampered her ability to build resilience and self-sufficiency. The children adapted to their new situation with surprising adaptability. Lucas, now 12, thrived in the coding group I introduced him to. Madeline acquired a fascination for science that neither Camille nor Andrew had recognized. Noah's dinosaur passion grew into a more general interest in natural history. I established college funds for each of them, with the condition that the funds be spent solely for educational purposes, a safeguard against history repeating itself. Andrew and I formed an unexpected friendship based on mutual respect. He confronted the financial calamity full-on, gradually repairing his credit and profession while becoming a more present father than he had ever been during his marriage. The bankruptcy was humiliating, he admitted, but freeing. Not all relationships could be saved, however. Mom continued to avoid actual accountability, alternating between superficial apologies and sly explanations. During one especially challenging meal, she mentioned that my success was owed in part to her tough love style. If we had not pushed you out of the nest, would you have developed the same drive, she wondered, as if my homelessness had been a deliberate teaching moment rather than abandonment. I cautiously set down my fork. That is like saying abuse makes people stronger. Some survive despite it, not because of it. I succeeded in spite of how you treated me, not because of it. She swiftly changed the subject, as she was always uncomfortable with direct confrontation. These incidents confirmed Dr. Monroe's assessment that while Mom may change her conduct to preserve contact, true remorse or insight may never arrive. Some people are not capable of the depth of self-reflection necessary for genuine change. You can adjust your expectations accordingly, Dr. Monroe told me, and decide what kind of limited relationship, if any, serves your well-being. By the time my house's 18-month anniversary neared, I had set clear guidelines for family interaction. Monthly lunches with Camille and the kids, occasional coffees with Mom, regular dinners with Dad, and more frequent time with the kids during Andrew's custody weeks. To commemorate the event, I arranged a small gathering in stark contrast to the previous year's grand housewarming. Sophia accompanied her new fiancé. Professor Helen Whitaker and her husband attended. Dad arrived with Rebecca, their relationship now serious. Andrew brought the kids for a few hours. Even Camille made a brief and charming visit. Mom was noticeably absent, her choice after I declined to invite certain toxic family friends she insisted on including. It was a little but crucial win in keeping my boundaries. And, as the evening progressed and people had dessert on the patio, Lucas approached me with his laptop. "Aunt Evelyn, can you look at my code? I am trying to build a game, but the graphics will not render properly." We sat on the porch swing, solving his JavaScript issues as fireflies blinked in the coming dusk. The simple moment, an aunt assisting her nephew, family members supporting one another in healthy ways, brought tears to my eyes which I quickly wiped away. "Are you okay?" Lucas inquired, noting my emotion. "More than okay," I told him. "Just happy you're here." Later that night when everyone had left, I wandered through my home, which was genuinely mine in every way. The house had become a haven, not only from the outer world, but also from the harmful family habits that had nearly ruined me. Within these confines, I had created new rituals, connections, and a new understanding of family that was based on mutual respect rather than duty or manipulation. My journey from sleeping in my van at 21 to owning this lovely home at 31 was not solely about financial gain. It was about reclaiming my worth, setting healthy boundaries, and creating a life that reflected my ideals rather than others' expectations. My ties with my family would most certainly remain complex. Mom may never fully admit the devastation she has caused. Camille's growth potential may be limited. Dad's attempts to make amends could not undo years of absence. However, I no longer required their validation or approval to feel whole. The terrified 21-year-old who drove away from her childhood home with nowhere to go had discovered not just safety, but also strength. She had realized that family is sometimes chosen rather than born, and that standing in your truth, no matter how difficult, results in genuine connection rather than a hollow performance of obligation. As I sat on my veranda with a cup of tea, watching the stars appear in the summer sky, I felt tremendous serenity. The voyage had not been easy, but it had taken me exactly where I needed to be. Home, in all senses of the word.